Blog Talk Radio.
Hey everybody, thank you for tuning in to Late Night Leos. As your host, Morgan from THORGECKO, and I have a new guest co-host, Lisa from CARPE Gecko. Lisa,
hello.
You want to say hello?
Hello, I'm Lisa for the night.
Okay, and tonight's episode is brought to you by our generous sponsors, Luxurious Leopards, Holly's Homebred Reptiles, and Lilith's Leo Lovables. And our special guest tonight is KRISTI from Ghoulish Geckos. KRISTI, you want to say hello?
Hey everyone, thank you for having me.
So, KRISTI, tonight our topic is going to be mainly Eclipse, but we'll get into everything else that you do. Do you want to start with telling everyone how you got into reptiles?
I don't really know how exactly I got into them. I had dated somebody before in high school that had some iguanas, and that was like my first time really like seeing them. And my daughter actually really wanted reptiles when she was maybe around 10-ish and 9, 10. She kind of like pushed me into it, and being around leopard geckos, it was just like this instant connection. I love animals, have a passion for animals, and something about it just really intrigued me. So I just started reading as much as I could on the care and the different morphs and meeting different people, and it just grew from there.
Awesome. So how did you decide to go from just keeping them to actually breeding and making a hobby business out of that?
I think just because I wanted to keep more than I should have for just a couple pets, so I thought it would be interesting to see how the breeding side of it would go. And after my first season, it worked out pretty well, so I just continued to increase it from there.
Cool. So how many geckos did you have in your first season?
I probably only hatched maybe like 20 or so, maybe 25 my first season. Nothing huge.
Very neat.
Okay, so
did you?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, did you start working with Eclipse like right off the bat, or what? What were your first? What were the first Leos that you bred?
My first pairings were actually blizzards, and I got into the Eclipse in that first year also. And that's the one morph that's basically stuck with me from the beginning, and everything else I've kind of changed up here and there.
Right on. So what other, now you do a lot of work with the Montanus and stuff like that. Are you planning on doing more work with the Montanus and the Eclipse?
I'm hoping to. I had actually planned on selling the project, but I ended up keeping a couple back, and I got in them from Eric at Oregon Gecko, and he kind of like taught me the different like outcrossings you could do with the subspecies, and I really liked the largeness of those. I mean, they're not like the largest subspecies, but they're larger, and I like the size. Like my male is like probably around 90 grams, and my female is probably like in the 80-gram range, and I'm hoping to breed them this season and see if anything neat pops out, and I might breed the male to like another regular Eclipse also.
Right on. So is that all the Eclipse projects that you have, or are you working with any total Eclipse stuff?
I'm not. I've done some Mac Eclipse before. I don't even think I have any left over. I don't think I ended up keeping any. I have worked with like the white and yellow Eclipse, and I'm getting a new white and yellow Tremper head Eclipse in this season. So I'm hoping that it's very orange, so I'm hoping to bring that into the orange with my Eclipse projects. But I think I kind of leaned more towards going away from the Max just because I have a preference with the orange versus like the yellowish coloring.
Yeah. What other projects do you have?
Right now, I really cut back quite a bit. Right now, I have like the multiple Eclipse projects, and I have a blood hypo male from JMG and a blood hypo enigma female that I got from Thad at Ohio Gecko. and they made really nice babies last year with no problem. So I'm going to breed them again this season. And I have a Eclipse het bell from Kelly from Hiss that I have that's a really nice, clean-looking Eclipse. And I have a female, she's like a blood cross, who's het for radar, so het Eclipse bell, that I got from Thad also. And they made a really nice baby this past season that I probably should have held on to but sold. So I'm going to breed them again and see what I can produce from them. They were first seasons, both of those last year, so they didn't produce a lot of babies.
Right on. And you have worked with the Afghans and other subspecies in the past, right?
Yes, I have.
Did you notice any when you outcross with them if they they get genetically stronger or anything like that?
I didn't really know. I mean, I didn't do too many generations of outcrossing to really notice a huge difference, but I wasn't getting like a lot of tail kinks or anything like that with crossing them. I would assume as you have more generations and you're outcrossing more and more, it probably would strengthen it more than just breeding like 2 generations and then outcrossing. But I like to try to bring in some different bloodlines to make sure everybody's not completely related like that closely. And I did like doing it with the subspecies because it changed the way the animals looked, but it didn't completely change them. Okay.
And have you done any of that sort of subspecies outcrossing with the Enigmas, or do you plan to?
I believe I did it one time, and I only have one Enigma, so I really probably won't be doing it anytime soon unless I get any others. I didn't really notice any strengthening from outcrossing with the Enigma. It seemed kind of like a hit or miss.
Do the subspecies have different structures, like head and, limbs, tail?
I think that they do a little when you look at them, but I don't know if everybody notices it. Structurally, they definitely have a difference in size. I think sometimes the heads look a little bit different on certain ones, but that could just be me. But the Afghans are definitely like a smaller one. The fascios made things a lot lighter in coloring. The Afghans made things a lot darker, it seemed like.
Very cool. Yeah, I've just been getting into crested geckos a little bit and realizing how much that community kind of focuses on structure and body structure and form and head structure and stuff, and there's nothing like that in the Leo community right now. So
no, I haven't seen that.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think the next thing that's going to come with the whole structure thing is Pat's working on the Reapers. Have you guys seen that?
No.
Nope.
Yeah, those things are awesome. They've got like a longer snout, almost like a crocodile.
Oh. Okay.
Interesting. Be fun to see.
Now, I have noticed some of the blizzards or super snows that have had like shorter noses, but I don't know if that's like a normal thing. I've just seen it from different people's like pictures that they've posted.
Yeah, the super snows I've been line breeding have definitely smaller heads and smaller body structures than the rest of the ones I'm working with right now. Interesting. And I picked up a white and yellow boy too, and his head seems to be a little different. But I don't know if it was just that breeder's line or.
Yeah, I haven't really noticed too much there.
I think there's a lot of things that we don't notice. Everybody's breeding for color and pattern, and I'm starting to see certain people are starting to breed for structure. So.
Should be interesting. I mean, it's kind of a tough thing because I do notice that certain morphs look a certain way, and I don't know who can really say what's the right way for a gecko to look and what's the wrong way.
Yeah.
But I guess it's personal preference for people on what they like, as long as it's not, like, modifying the body in a weird way.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence with, like, the whole pigtail thing on the geckos.
Mhm.
Sorry, Destiny.
Now she's going to call.
Well, we haven't seen any dachshund geckos yet, or Chihuahua ones. So far.
Yeah. I do know that there is a teacup mini type project that's being worked on. So that'll be interesting. Yeah.
I've seen dwarfs, but I didn't think anybody was actually trying to breed them.
Well, it's not like a dwarf. They're proportionately, just smaller, and not even like Afghan, but like even an inch smaller than an Afghan. It's interesting. I don't know if it's going to turn into anything, but just what I've seen, yeah.
I think my concern with something like that would be the effect that laying eggs would have on something that's smaller.
Exactly. Yeah, you would want to make sure that is their body going to produce smaller eggs, or is their body just smaller? Yeah. So going back to the whole subspecies thing, I always get in debates with people because they say outcrossing the subspecies brings in fresh blood and everything, but with the whole race to keep, like fascio pure and all of that, it seems like people are inbreeding those even more. So do you think that even if you were breeding, like, say you had a group that was really, really starting to, you needed to outcross, and someone told you to outcross to, like, fascio, but being that fascio is a tight-knit community in itself, do you think that that's a better idea, or would you want to, like, say, cross it out to a Dabble Blanco that has been, all different things have been put into it?
Honestly, I think it's a tough situation because, I think that keeping them pure is important, but I also think outcrossing is important. And like you said, keeping them pure makes the group very small. However, I think because they probably weren't closely related in the wild, as closely related as the other morphs all kind of come from, like, the same thing, I would hope that by outcrossing with subspecies it would be a different blood, but I don't really know that it is anymore. So much in the U.S. has been mixed and matched that I don't know how much is really clean anymore.
Yeah.
It might be the age-old debate of when is a subspecies actually a subspecies and not just a slight color variation. That trying to keep something pure that may not have been entirely pure in the wild in captivity is difficult, or even just trying to populations over time do inbreed.
Yes.
By the general definition of a species. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think a lot of that would go back to the whole people making up family trees. Because, you could, say, cross a fascio to a Turkmenicus or a Montanus, and you might not really notice a difference, So.
And I think outcrosses are really important when the gene pool starts to bottleneck drastically. So if you're breeding, even if you're breeding like brothers to sisters and brothers to mothers for several generations, there may be a wide enough variation of genes in the population you started with to not make that a huge problem for several generations, versus in an already inbred population you may, I don't know, like fascio, maybe. It may be a bigger problem. Who knows?
I think part of an issue, too, is people buying from maybe people that they shouldn't trust as much. I think that there's certain breeders out there that really do have pure animals, whereas I think other breeders just kind of get something and they think they can pass it off as a subspecies to get more money or to make the sale easier. And I think people really need to be careful with who they're buying from, know their breeders, ask questions about the genetics, where they got those animals from, because it's not like those just started here. The things were imported in and they had to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
Absolutely. buyer beware on every level, everything you do in life.
Yes.
Especially when you're buying living things, in my opinion.
Mhm. I'm just seeing more and more mislabeling out there as geckos have become more popular. There's more and more people breeding them. Things like Facebook make it so much more available, and I'm seeing a lot of mislabeling on things.
Yeah. And a lot of new experts.
Yes.
I like to think that I know enough, but you can never know enough in reality.
No, you can't. No. I just think new keepers that haven't been doing this for very long really need to learn to accept what other people have to say, because some people they don't want to listen, even though they should, and some people listen to the wrong people, and that could be a problem too. I think people need to do their research. They need to get to know breeders. They need to spend time on communities and figure out who people are. I think for me, I got really lucky because I came in when Gecko Forms was probably at like one of its peak times. So I got to meet a lot of top breeders that spent their time there teaching, and I got to learn from a lot of them, which really, really helped me. But I'm not seeing that now. Now I'm seeing big splits in groups and people listening to people that are new instead of listening to people like Marsha who've been around for so long.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things people need to really pay attention to with the Internet. The Internet's been a great thing for teaching, but they need to realize you can't listen to everybody.
Yeah, I think a big issue with that whole thing is that, the forums are kind of turning into the old dinosaur, and people aren't really going to them, and they're going to Facebook, where some random person can start a group, and, once they get 5,000 friends, then they're an expert, and they don't even know who, some don't know who Ron is or Steve or Marsha or any of them, and I hate it. And I really push everyone for the forums, but even myself, I don't go on the forums. So
it's
gotten hard too because there's not that many people there now.
Yeah.
And it's difficult too because in Facebook I feel like I'm answering the same exact questions day after day. Why isn't my Leo eating?
Yeah,
how do I get these two to breed?
Like
and it's
too,
like
though.
Yeah, the forums are kind of like that. People just don't search before they ask.
No.
Yeah.
Expertise is just fluid.
At least on a forum you can, give them a link to a thread all about it. But on Facebook you can't, you can't give them a link to anything. Once it's posted on Facebook,
it's easier.
Yeah. And then all that info is lost in a week.
I learned more from Gecko forums than I learned anywhere on the Internet or from any of the books that I read.
Yeah.
But again, it was also listening to the right people and knowing who the right people were.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Well, I guess speaking about starting out and learning how to keep leopard geckos, I wonder, Kristi, how do you keep your guys? Like, do you keep them in racks or cages?
Yes. I keep mine in racks. My racks are from Reptile Basics, and they're the iris tubs, so they don't have, like, the lines in the bottom. They're really smooth, so they're easier to clean out. I have hatchling racks and then adult racks. I keep everybody single. The only time I ever have anybody together is when there's actually breedings going on. I usually put my male in for a few days and then take him out and give him a break and then put him in for a few days again. But I never really keep anybody together for very long. Paper towels, just very simple, basic setup for them. I like to keep my hot side a little bit warmer. I usually aim for right around 94 for my warm side. My reptile room is warmer than the rest of my house because of all the heat tape, so the air temperature in there is definitely in like the mid-70s. In the summertime, it's probably close to 80.
That must be nice for cut back on electricity bill.
Yeah, it doesn't air condition well, but it does help heat up in the winter. So
awesome.
But it also helps with because we breed our own mealworms and dubia roaches, so it helps keeping the temperature up in there for those to breed a little quicker too.
Cool. Is that what you mainly feed then, mealworms and dubia?
Yes. Once in a great while, I'll buy like some silkworms or some hornworms, superworms, something just for like a special treat. But my staples are definitely mealworms and dubias. I start all my babies on mealworms. One, because it's easier, and two, I just feel like for animals I know I'm going to sell, it's easier for people. More people are going to feed mealworms. So I try to start them on mealworms so it's easier. I don't do crickets at all. I don't like them.
Yeah, I am in the same boat.
So
plus, I've been hearing too many scary things about pinworms lately coming out of crickets.
Yes. Unfortunately, they can be in, other insects too. The good thing with those types of pinworms is they generally do not affect the gecko, but you do want to get rid of them as quick as you can. But I think clean-wise, the dubias, I think they seem cleaner. They don't smell bad like the crickets do. And they don't really get away. No, and they don't chirp, no.
That's my main thing. They keep me up. Crickets, I get 5 of them out in the house, and then they keep me up at all hours.
Yeah, I have dogs that would probably chase them, and it would make me crazy. So
yeah, that too. I have a dog and a cat that would love to stalk them all night while I was trying to sleep.
So I feed, once they become adults, I try to switch my adults over to dubias. Some won't switch, and they end up on mealworms forever. Others will switch easily. I really just kind of let them have their preference. I have some that'll eat both, and then when I get new animals in, I try to ask the breeder what they had been feeding, and if they were feeding crickets, I just automatically try dubias. If they were feeding mealworms, I'll usually start them on mealworms and then see if I can get them to change. I've had a couple that would not change at all.
Huh.
Yeah, I've had the same results. Everybody says, "Oh, they love dubia," and I had, 60 geckos that wouldn't eat it. So
wow,
it's just I don't know what it is.
Most of them will, but yeah, I have a couple holdouts that just won't. They have no interest. Some of them I think it is like a vision thing. My Bell Blazing Blizzard, he eats mealworms. He would not touch the crickets. He seemed like he was afraid of them, but he doesn't see as well. I've noticed he jumps at everything. So I wonder sometimes if it's not just really being able to see them when they run by him.
Goodness, I have one 10-year-old male that I got from Kelly Hammond, or at Hiss, and he switched over to him immediately. He'd been on dubia for almost 8.5 years.
Wow.
He loves the silly things. But he tends to bite them and chomp them and leave them and then walk away and come back 10 minutes later and eat the dead one, which is strange.
Oh, really? But mine will not eat them if they kill them.
Mine, every other gecko I own, is the exact same way. Won't eat it if they kill it. This one, I keep going to take it out, and then I'm I'm just going to leave it because it's dead. No, nothing else will eat it now.
Yeah.
And I come back and it's gone.
It's interesting.
He's a strange guy.
That's one of the other things, too, with geckos that you had asked me what, interested me in them. And I think it's their personalities, because I would never have thought that, a reptile would have such a personality. And some of my other ones do, but the leopard geckos really seem to have different personalities for each different one.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Yeah. So, what's your oldest gecko?
My oldest one right now, I want to say he's probably around 7. So he's not that old. This is my 7th season that I'm starting, so I think he's got to be around. I think he's around 7 because I did get him in the beginning. I did sell some that I had that were older. I didn't keep all my original breeders. But this was my first male Eclipse, and I kept him. And I think he's around 7.
Is he still breeding?
Cool.
Yes, very actively. Yeah. He's my best breeder. He always has been.
It's very cool. Mine, I was trying to breed my old guy last year, and he prolapsed and had a year off, but he's back at it this year.
Yeah, I worry about that. I haven't had that yet.
It wasn't actually. I have a really fabulous vet here that will take appointments same day, and he kind of did pseudo surgery for the cost of the office visit. So
wow, that's great.
He was incredible.
Yeah, my closest is like an hour away, and they're an exotics vet, but they're not like specialized in like reptiles in general. So I've used them, but not too much.
The guy I found here was the vet at our local zoo for 10 years, so he's just fabulous.
That's nice.
I hope everybody's as lucky. If I ever move, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I guess in the same feeding vein, I don't know, what do you supplement your with, or calcium?
I do different things. I was using Calcium Plus for quite a while, but I kind of stopped using that this year. And I'm using mostly, like I'll use RepCal, and I use Vionate, and I use Mineral and Osteoform. So I kind of switch it up a little bit. I keep calcium, like the Osteoform, like a cup of it in all the cages, and then I dust with like everything else. And I add the Vionate into my gut load also, and put that in there. I try to dust, basically. I only feed 2 to 3 times a week unless they're babies, so I pretty much dust with every feeding.
Very cool.
So you were talking about personalities in leopard geckos. Do you find that blizzards are more aggressive than the other morphs?
I have had blizzards that have been the most aggressive out of any that I've owned, but I've had some that have been really calm too. I had one that was really, really mean until she laid eggs, and then she completely changed into a super mellow, like sweet gecko. So I don't know that it's really a blizzard thing, but out of everything I've owned, the meanest ones I've had have been blizzards.
Okay. Yeah, I've had the same experience, and I switched to a Murphy patternless because those are supposed to be the nice ones, and so far they are even meaner than last year's Diablo Blancos.
Great. I think the only gecko that ever took a chunk out of my hand was a Murphy patternless, actually.
Really?
Wow. I've never heard of them being mean.
No, it was my fault as a keeper. He was agitated and going back and forth in the glass, and I stupidly stuck my hand in there, thinking I'd pull him out and calm him down, and instead he just jumped and caught my finger in his mouth, and it took me about 10 minutes to get him off, and then a couple hours to decide whether I was going to the hospital or not to get a stitch in my finger.
Wow.
But I learned my lesson. Treat agitated males with respect. But I've never been bitten by another one other than that, except for little nips that are like, hey, don't do that, put me down.
Yeah,
kind of
that's
thing.
all I've had, little bites, nothing big.
Do you work with any other animals?
I do. I keep a lot of different things without breeding them, but this past summer I bought a pair of yellow Ackies to breed.
Nice. And
I'm just waiting for eggs. I'm not sure if my females grab it or not, or if she's just looking really chubby right now, but this will be my first season with them. I didn't get any eggs from them like over the summer, even though I did see them breeding constantly, but I didn't find any eggs when I dug everything up. And I just ordered chuckwallas also that I'm going to try to work with those.
Those guys look cute, but I'm not exactly, what exactly is a yellow Ackie?
It's a small, like a dwarf monitor. It's a very small monitor.
Very cool. So what's the maximum size they get?
I don't know really with length with their tail, but mine are probably about the same size as my less than a year old blue tongue skink right now. and these guys are adults. I mean, they're pretty small. They're thin. They're not really, like, thin, or I shouldn't say they're not thin. They're not fat, like, thick species. They're, like, kind of leaner, longer. Their tails are, like, spiky. They have smaller heads. But they're very
cool.
small.
They sound neat. Do they have personalities kind of like the Leos a little bit, or?
To an extent, yeah. I mean, they dig. They dig a lot. Like, they spend, like, their days digging tunnels. So I don't see them as much, but they do dig. They're pretty mellow for the most part, but if they don't want you touching them, they'll let you know pretty quick. I got mine as adults from somebody, so I didn't really get to, like, raise them as babies. So I'm not quite sure, like, how their personalities will be versus when I raise them up. But these guys are pretty cool.
Can you incubate them kind of right along with the Leo eggs, or do you have to have a separate incubator for them?
I'll do a separate incubator actually I'll probably use the male incubator for the Leos because I believe I was told to incubate them around like 86 degrees. And they incubate a lot longer than Leo eggs.
Oh, boy.
So how do you have those set up?
Mine are still kind of temporary right now, and I have them in like a I don't know if it's like a 75-gallon tank or something, but my plan is to put them into something more like a 4-foot by 3-foot by 3-foot. Right now they've got about like 20 inches or so of dirt to dig in, and I'd really like to raise that up to like 2 feet, like a good 2 feet of dirt, because they do burrow all the way down to the bottom. They don't really climb too much. I know that I've heard people say they climb a lot, but mine, I don't really notice them climb too much. Mine are actually pretty lazy except for the digging. So my biggest thing is I want more height for them so I can give them more dirt.
Right on. Who'd you get yours from?
I actually found a person who had bought them from a guy named KRISTI, who's a big Ackie breeder. But I don't remember what this guy's name. He was a local guy. I went and picked them up from him. He had bought them before and was getting out of them. So I got a really good deal and just jumped on it and grabbed them.
That's awesome.
And I like them. I think they're pretty cool.
Yeah. So are you going to be keeping all the babies together, or do they have to be separated, or how does that work?
A lot of breeders I've seen will keep some babies together. They can be raised basically in groups. A lot of people raise them in trios. So I'll probably just have small groups of the babies, as long as I keep an eye on their size, make sure they're all pretty equal in size and that everybody's eating okay and everything. I know that they say that if you want to, my male and female are together all the time. And they say if you want them to get along, your best bet is to get babies from the same litter or that were raised together. And that way they grow up together and they get along better.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of learning with them. And as I start actually getting eggs and hopefully they hatch, and I'll learn a lot more. It's harder to find info on species that people don't work with a lot, but so many people are asking, when I'm going to have babies, because so many people want them, but it seems like there's just not that many out there.
Yeah.
So when they have a tank filled with... Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh my God. If they have a tank filled with dirt, do they just lay their eggs anywhere they want to?
They'll dig a tunnel down, to the bottom. The dirt is moist, so it kind of clumps.
That sounds like an excavation mission.
Yes, we've dug it up a couple times thinking she laid eggs and never found anything. So.
Oh, boy.
Right now I'm just monitoring her waist, but she's, eating very aggressively right now, and she normally doesn't do that. And her waist is definitely bigger, but I don't know if she's just getting chubby preparing or if she might actually be gravid.
Exciting stuff.
They try to breed a lot, though. The male tries to breed all day.
So how many eggs do you get in a clutch of those guys?
I'm not real sure. I know that I want to say at least like it's a lot more than a Leo, but it's not like a huge amount. I've looked at people's clutches before, and I'm trying to think, like, kind of guess how many there would be. Maybe like 12, 10, 8, 12, something like that. It's more than like really, 2.
Yeah, you'd think that the market would have a whole lot more of them out there.
Mhm. I guess they used to be pretty popular, and then for some reason people stopped breeding them as much, and now people are kind of like, they're more in demand again. More and more people are looking for them again. It was actually brought up. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to ask, how long do they take to mature to breeding age?
2 years maybe. Year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a real long time. I think mine are 2. They might be 2.5.
Cool.
So, I mean, they're full size, full grown. And one of the things that was brought up at the last NARBC show in Tinley, I went to one of the meetings that they had, and they were talking about different animals that have been in kind of more in demand, that they've noticed that people aren't breeding as much. And I remembered one of the first things they talked about was Ackies. So I was kind of surprised to hear it mentioned like right away. So maybe more people. One. Yeah, they're really cute. And you can look them up and see them. My pictures aren't really good because the lighting is like horrible, but the red ones are really pretty.
So you'd think something that actually gets to a manageable size, unlike black-throated monitors and water and Niles, like that the average human being could own without putting an extension on their house,
yes,
would be in demand.
Yes. I think they are. I mean, and they're not as high priced as a lot of the smaller monitors. Like a lot of the dwarf monitors are like, $2,000 for one. These guys, I think, are usually around like $400 for one. So they're not like that huge price, but they're also not like a $30 Savannah that somebody can get.
Right. Very neat. So is that mainly Ackies and leopard geckos are your 2 main species?
Yes, right now they are. I am looking into getting some other stuff. I've been making a list for like the last 2 years, but I'm trying to find more rare stuff that like I really want to branch out and kind of, I don't want to say make my name in something because I don't expect to ever really do that, but I'd like to work with something that's a little more rare in the U.S., something that not as many people work with. But I'm having a hard time, like, really finding the right projects for those. So I think this year I'm going to add, like, maybe one project, and then next year maybe try to add another one and kind of see. For me, I kind of, like, test something out. If I don't really think I like it that much, then I'll sell or trade it and try something different. But I don't know. I'm not quite sure 100% what I want. I was looking for some of the rare, like, iguana species, but unless I get them imported from Europe, it's really, really hard to find them. So I think I'm probably going to wait like another year on those. There are like a few breeders in the U.S. that are working on them, but nobody has babies yet.
That's really cool. So I have a question. People are wondering, what do you use for your incubation? Like do you use deli cups or geos, and what kind of incubators, and how do you set up your cups?
Okay. I have been using for the last 2 years, I think, the Sims, basically, for the most part. I used to just use, like, Ziploc containers, but I've been using the Sims, and I really like them. I have different ones for the different albinos so that nothing gets mixed up. So I have 3 different ones. And
cool.
I have
like boxes that are like, they're like 7 inches by 4 or 5 inches?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, they're pretty big. Kind of heavier. They're clear plastic. They have rows, so you can separate the eggs by rows. And they've worked really good for me so far. And I have a Nature Spirit incubator that I use. And for medium, I've kind of experimented with different ones, and I'm not really sure what I like the best so far. I've been using, for the most part, the one, and I cannot think of the name of it, but it's like the clay kind of stuff where you just add a little bit of water to it, and it's pretty much good.
I've been looking for that stuff. I think that's what most crested people use.
Probably, yeah. I know I have a bag of it somewhere, but I'm not sure offhand where I have it at. But I started using that, and I seem to like it just because of the ease of use of it. It's just easier because you really don't have to measure the water as much. And the color changes, so you know if you need to add more, like water. So it's by Repashy. It's Super Hatch is what it is.
Okay, cool.
Which is probably why the crested people use it, because it's Repashy. So. But I've been using that for a couple years now, and I seem to prefer that one. Just like I said, it's easy to use, and it doesn't really dry out too bad. If it does dry out a little, you just add a teeny little bit of water, and it's pretty good. So nothing fancy, just pretty much basic. I'm going to pick up probably a second Nature Spirit this year because I just bought mine last year, and I like it a lot. It's nice.
I was thinking of that, too. We've got the guy Vens at a local show right here, so I tend to get his broken ones. He usually has one or so that might be damaged in shipping or something that may be available every other month or so.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Fun. Let's see. So, do you keep a separate incubator for males? I think you said.
I did. Last year, I just used like a small incubator, but I really don't incubate for too many males, unless somebody specifically is looking for something, or if I know I need something for a project. I mostly incubate for females, and I usually have a females pop up in there. I only do it because I tend to sell the females way faster than I sell the males.
Cool. And so what temperature do you incubate at?
Right around 83 is generally what I keep the females at. And like I said, I'll pop out a couple males a season, usually even at that temperature, and the rest will be females.
Do you change your like, say you incubate females for like 20 days, do you start pushing them up to a hotter temperature for better colors?
I don't.
Or do you just...
Nope.
Okay.
No, I don't know. I know some people do that, and some people think it's great, and some people don't really like it. And for me personally, I look at if you have the animal with good genetics and the colors that you're looking for, you should be able to hatch out babies with those same colors.
Yeah.
And
yeah, definitely.
I mean, I don't hatch out brown trumpers. My trumpers are orange at 83.
Yeah.
So I think it's what you're using.
Yeah, I think I incubated at 81 this past season. Sorry. And they came out dark purple, the trumpers.
Wow.
So they're cool. But I don't know, I had some advice to pump it up to 83 and a half, and I'm going to see if I'm breeding the same couple pairs this year, so we'll see if it changes too much. Hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people that have posted animals like albinos that were super brown, and I'm like, wow, you must have really incubated them at low temperatures, and they're like, no, at like 88. I'm like, so I mean, it does to an extent obviously have to work with the temperatures, otherwise people wouldn't see a variation, but I do think it's more genetic than anything.
And I don't know, but mine didn't really start to show the dark purple colors until their carrot tail didn't come in, their tangerine didn't come in all the way, and the dark purple colors didn't come in all the way until they were about 35 to 40 grams.
Wow.
So I don't know if, people posting babies, it doesn't look that different. I don't know.
Yeah, that is interesting.
I don't know. I've been trying for the last 4 years to make dark trumpers. So, because my whole thing was midnight blizzards. I wanted to get into that, but I haven't had any luck in doing the darker albinos at a lower temperature. So I do think that it has a lot to do with bloodlines as well.
Yes.
Or I've heard from a couple people that when their geckos one of my friends was saying his geckos were kind of in a blast of cold air at a show he was vending, and the temperatures turned dark. So it may not even be an incubation thing all the way. It might be like a dose of temperature at some point.
Yes, I've noticed that when they get colder, they get darker. Also, if they're not healthy, they tend to get dark and dull. Whereas a lot of people that post, like, what's this morph, and it's a sick animal, they don't realize that it's not going to look the same once it's healthy.
Yeah, I see that all the time. You know, it might look like a normal, but it's sick, and then once it gets its vitamins, it'll be a hypo or.
I've seen some go from being like a brown, where people are like, "Oh, that's a snow," to having it be a tangerine. So I mean, it really varies. They definitely change color
come
like
out
that.
Dark. They're fun.
What I try to tell people is that, you know, just because I work with like an Eclipse, I'm not going to just go buy Eclipse. For me, it's something that I just see something and I know it will work for me with the look that I'm going for. And I tell people that you need to buy for quality. You can't just buy it because it's the morph that you want. Figure out the look that you want to go for. Try to find animals similar to that and breed for the best that you can of that. And that's how you're going to get that nice quality, that nice color. You're not going to get it by trying to manipulate different things and hope for the best. I've seen some beautiful animals come out of crappy animals, but for the most part, if you start with quality, you're going to breed quality.
Good lesson to know. So, on that note, you just said, like, you know an animal will fit within the goals of the projects that you're working on? So do you have specific goals for what you're working on with your eclipses?
With the Eclipse, my main thing, for some reason, when I bred my first Eclipse pair, the first baby that popped out came out with turned into like this weird orange spotted Eclipse. And I didn't really think anything of it until people started like saying how different it looked and how neat it was, and people started calling it by its name and knowing his name, and I thought it was really strange, but it made me think maybe that was something different. So I started looking around, and I wasn't finding a lot of stuff that looked like that Eclipse. So my goal was kind of to expand on that. So I kind of went with like trying to get that more, instead of the brown spotted or the black spotted, I tried to get those spots to turn orange. And then I also decided that I liked the more solid orange body look also, with a lot of carrot tail. So I kind of have two different like projects that I work on with that. I ended up using like the blood Eclipse from JMG and used that one season and mixed her into my orange spotted Eclipse. And they made really nice babies, and I've just kind of gone from there with it. But I can usually look at like an Eclipse when it hatches and tell if it's going to fit into the project that I'm looking for. I can tell when I'm at a show looking at people's Eclipses if it's going to fit with what I want. I think for me it's just a personal preference, and a lot of people tend to like the orange. So it just seemed like something I could work with and go from, since it just kind of randomly happens. And every year, even like with his grandkids, like breedings, I'll have like one or two that pop out like him.
Very cool.
Really cool. So do you participate in any of the Abyssinian type of stuff?
Not really. My take, I think being on Gecko forums, like when that morph was announced, there was a lot of talk about it. One of the breeders that I had talked to and was friends with basically bought a bunch of the Abyssinian stuff directly from Tremper and decided to test breed it. And he basically was just getting, like, Eclipses. Like, I mean, he wasn't really getting anything different. What I noticed in the descriptions in Abyssinians have changed over the years. When it first came out, it was noted that the snake eyes, they had red veins in them, and that the black spots weren't black spots, they were brown. Well, I looked at my normal eclipses that I had, and that's what they looked like. Like, they already looked like that. They fit the definition of an Abyssinian without being an Abyssinian. Now, talking with, I think it was John at Gecko Boa, he had said that people now more look at it as like an eclipse without eye pigment.
Yeah.
But I don't really know that that's the correct term because it's not really what it was when it came out. But reading an Abyssinian to an eclipse, you're getting eclipses. So to me, I don't know if there's really anything separate there.
Yeah.
I don't think that the eclipse...
Hello?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I don't know that the eclipse was really understood at the time when Abyssinian was released because it was said to be like some morph changer, and I don't even look at the eclipse as a morph changer, but what I do see with the eclipse is that the patternless stripe does change the body patterns on geckos. Using a patternless stripe, MAC eclipse, they're not hatching out black and white like a normal MAC would. They're hatching out more of like that dark coloring, the yellow and the black. You know, it is changing it because it's changing the pattern, but I think that has to do with the patternless stripe gene, and it really doesn't have to do with the eye gene.
Okay. Yeah, I think that Abyssinian is genetically the same as Eclipse. It would just be like saying, you know, total eclipse versus a super snow eclipse, you know, or a galaxy. It's all almost,
I think
almost
it's somebody's
like,
own line.
Yeah,
maybe.
Almost like it should have been called Abyssinian Project, you know? I think that's I'm glad more breeders are approving of putting project at the end of whatever somebody's trying to make, you know, because that way, say you have like a ghoulish orange project, people are going to accept that more than if you said it was a ghoulish tangerine. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. I say that all the time. It's like I don't have my own line of eclipses. I'm not naming them, but they do look different than a lot of people. And I've had other people say, oh, I can look at a picture of an eclipse and I know that's one of yours. And I can look at some that I sold to other people and see their babies and go, oh, that's from one of my lines. It's not that it's my own eclipse, but there's something that I can see in it that just, I don't know, but I would never say it's a morph or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think that too many people are trying to focus on creating new morphs instead of just bettering the morphs that are there. I think I liked before when they just kind of popped out on accident, but the breeders need to test breed those more before they're released.
Yeah, I think a lot of the issues are they're trying to make new morphs out of these morphs, but they don't realize that they are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing and bettering the morph. They're trying to turn it into something else.
Yeah.
So it's complicated, I guess.
Yeah. My goal is just to produce what I like and to hope that it improves it and makes it better over time. I mean, I'm never going to get famous making new morphs or creating things that are, like, amazing. I don't breed on a huge scale. Like, I don't breed large numbers. I'm a small breeder. But I really try to focus on the quality of what I breed. And I try to also kind of almost breed, like, my more gentle geckos. And I work with them from the time they hatch to make sure that they're friendly. Because I think a lot of people don't do that. I notice sometimes when I get geckos from larger breeders, they're very skittish and they're not used to being held a lot.
Yeah.
So I try to work on that too.
Well, you know, that's not everybody has to be famous, but I mean, there's people that I talk to that are, you know, all over the country, and they've known who you were, and you know, so people see. I mean, your eclipses are what everybody talks about. So, I mean, obviously you're doing.
But yeah.
Yeah, you're doing something right, I guess.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, on Gecko forums, somebody gave me the nickname Eclipse Queen like a few years back, so it kind of like stuck for a while.
Yeah,
it's
somebody
really
posted that on I think Sean posted that on one of the links that I posted for the show tonight.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny. It's been a while since I've heard that, but yeah. I mean, it's not, I definitely don't have the best Eclipse out there. I've seen some amazing ones, but I try to be really consistent with what I'm breeding. And I really don't get many anymore that pop out that don't fit into that, like, look that I'm going for.
Yeah.
My biggest thing with people with Eclipse is that they don't understand what Eclipse is. I'm having a lot of times arguing with people saying that if they're not solid black eyes, that they're not Eclipse. It's been really, really hard trying to explain that to people, that it's not just the eyes that make it an Eclipse. And I think that goes back to people not understanding genetics at all. But I've even pointed them back to like Tremper stuff where it says like that they can have snake eyes and things, and they still don't quite get it. Like they still think it's solid eyes or it's not an Eclipse.
Or that
really there's so much
the eye.
there's so much more to it, to the morph, than just the eyes.
Yeah. Or it has to have a white nose to be Eclipse, and I don't know how many Mac Eclipses I've hatched this year that didn't have the white nose. Really? Wow. Yeah.
I've never hatched any without a white nose yet.
Yeah, mine has a blatantly obvious one.
Yeah.
I have had a couple as adults, though, where you don't see it as much. But even with most of mine, even as adults, the white is still there. So that's surprising. That's one thing that I look for. I mean, for me, I know genetically that if I'm breeding an Eclipse to Eclipse, I know my babies are going to be Eclipses. But I've had some hatch that have had barely any eye pigment. But they've all had the white nose, and then I know the genetics. But it's really hard to argue with people when they see the ones that don't really have much eye pigment, and they're like, those can't be Eclipse. And it's like, they are Eclipse. They have to be Eclipse. They're genetically, they have to be.
Fun. Yeah, I find the same thing. I picked up a group of typhoons from enigmatic reptiles, and they had very obviously white noses when they were little bitty things, and now they're almost filled in with orange. You have to really look at their paws and their feet in there.
Yeah.
Noses.
See, I haven't worked with the typhoons at all. I've only worked with the raptors and the radars and the albino lines. So for me, I'm not real sure how those would work. But even my radars have all had the white noses also, the raptors, the Eclipses, and the radars. I think for me, though, I think because I've worked it'll be my 7th year working with the Eclipse, that I've hatched out so many that I can spot them really easily, too, just by their body patterns and everything else. Like, they have a look, and you just know it when you see it.
Cool. It'll be my first season actually hatching out any that are Eclipse, so might need some feedback on Gecko forums at some point.
They're fun. They're a neat one to hatch out because you really don't know what they're going to look like with their pattern. Once in a while I'll have a banded one hatch out, but most of mine are pretty patternless. Sometimes they end up with, like, orange stripes going down the sides. Sometimes they end up with spots all over, and sometimes they're just completely clear, like with no pattern.
Awesome. Very cool.
So have you done any work with bandits?
I worked with some like bold stripe bandit Afghan crosses like a year or two ago, but I never worked with like bandit by itself.
All right. And is there any other projects that you're going to push the Eclipses into?
Right now, just like the white and yellow and maybe a little subspecies stuff. pushing more, maybe getting more of the blood hypo into the Eclipse. I'm not real sure yet on that. I'm kind of keeping my eyes open this year to see if I can find like one or two that really fit the look that I want to add to the group, and I might find something that catches my interest. I usually do, but for right now, my main goal with them is just kind of keeping them the way that they are. I don't get many raptors that come out because not all of them are het for Tremper, so I'm kind of trying to figure out who's really het and who isn't. And maybe eventually I'll have some pure ones.
On that bandit vein, I wonder, do you think, will the Eclipse gene work well with bold markings and stripes and colors?
I tried that a couple years ago, and it started to work a little bit. I believe Kelly had some that were really nice that were starting to, but I don't know if anybody ever took it like that much further. Mine were, they really didn't have like the bold stripes. I mean, they did have a different look than the Eclipse, and they did have like a little bit of the striping, but it wasn't like dark striping. I think it would take quite a few years of like line breeding for that, and I'm not sure still how it would work. I don't know if, like I said, I'm pretty sure Kelly was one that I saw that had some, and I don't know if she ever continued with them. I think she ended up selling their project too.
Very cool. Yeah, I was just wondering because I would think that it would kind of wash out the colors. It's a couple different kinds of, there tend to be patternless animals, but
yes, that's the problem. I mean, you have the patternless stripe with the Eclipse, which sometimes does cause the striping, but it's so different than like the actual bold stripe, and the patternless stripe gene tends to change the patterns on geckos. So I think it would definitely be a lot of years of line breeding and test breeding the best ones together.
Yeah, I'm amazed that nobody has done like an Eclipse Halloween mask project. Because, with all the black on the face and black eyes would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think the problem is, though, with most Eclipses, there's really no pattern on their heads. So I don't know, again, like how much that's really going to like carry over until somebody really tries it for a few years.
So you'd be kind of working at dual purposes, like one without it, combining with the one that was, and it would be difficult to keep that pattern, you think. Going down.
I think it would look really nice, and I love the idea of it. I don't know, nobody really seems to, I haven't noticed anybody really working on them.
Yeah, but there's so many secret projects, so I'm sure there's...
There
there's probably
there might have been
few
somebody
projects.
tried for a couple of years.
Yeah.
It didn't work out, and they don't want to tell anybody.
Yeah, I don't keep anything secret, but again, like I said, I'm not trying to create anything new. So for me, I'm pretty open when anybody wants to ask anything about what I'm working with. I don't really have any secret projects.
Yeah, I try to not have any, but
I don't have enough space to have any.
Oh, that too.
So are you still working with the Murphy pattern lists? I noticed that you had a lot of them for sale this last season.
Yeah, I only did them for one season. I do kind of like regret now. I kind of wish maybe I would have kept them. I was working with the Embers, and I only spent the one season with them, and I did like them, but like both of our cars broke at the same time this year, so I kind of sold some projects to like pay for like car work. And I figured I kind of needed to, like, really focus on, like, certain groups. So I basically listed a bunch of stuff for sale, and then some stuff sold, and then I kept the other stuff that didn't sell. And once enough sold, I pulled the other stuff from my sales page that I didn't really want to sell anyways. So that was one of the things that went pretty quick. I only had one male and one female at the time. It's something I wouldn't mind getting back into. I think I like the Embers and, like, the albino and stuff, but I kind of like the pures also. I like how, like, Marsha keeps her stuff, like, she keeps the pure stuff still going. I kind of like that too.
Yeah, I've got one of the females from Marcia.
Mhm.
But
yeah, I think they're really nice.
Yeah, I got a super giant Tremper patties from Ron in 2012, and they're angry little geckos.
Yeah, see, mine were angry, so that's weird. But it was neat hatching them. I really love how they hatch out.
Yeah,
I love their little pattern.
They are cool. So, for those of us who are kind of naive, is an Ember Eclipse Murphy's pattern list, or is there albino in there?
Yeah, it's the albino. It's like a raptor, like a patternless, Murphy's patternless, like raptor.
Cool. Cool. I don't keep up with the morph names too much. I just go with genetic words.
Yeah, I try to. It's hard. There's so many new ones. I don't know most of the new names, like what they are when people ask. Because then I'm like, isn't that just this? And I say
unless I work with
things.
them, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up because everybody wants to name things themselves, and
yeah.
I don't know. I think that goes back to that whole ego thing. Some people just want to be the best at everything, and they want to be the first at everything, and I just don't know that there's that many more firsts that there's going to be with leopard geckos. The amount of morphs have slowed down quite a bit. White and yellows really aren't that new because they were in Europe before. We're getting a lot more of the subspecies in, but those aren't new either. So I don't know how much more new stuff's going to pop up.
Well, I don't know what else could pop up. I mean, how many more colors could you fit on one of those things?
Pink,
I wanted
purple.
a piebald gecko.
Yes.
When a piebald gecko comes out, I'll be on that. But
it's getting close, though, and that has to do with the eclipse gene. Because I've seen some super snow eclipses that they really have that pied look to them. I mean,
but is it like a line bred look, or is it like a genetic recessive look?
I honestly, I don't. Yeah, I think it has to be line bred. I know Michelle works with them a lot, and she's been getting more and more white in hers, and they're really cool looking.
Yeah, I've been trading with Michelle back and forth for a couple of years now, and she's working on getting them to be super white on the Super Snow Eclipse, and I'm working to pull the snow out of it.
Oh, okay.
Because, I mean, even if you're talking about something line bred, there has to be something causing the white face.
Oh,
so you should be able to have a normal, if it's eclipse, it should be an eclipse with a white face or super reduced pattern or something. So.
Yeah. But I have seen, even with the normal eclipses, the white coming up even higher on the legs and coming up not just on the nose now, but coming up on the face and up higher. So we're seeing it more and more. I just don't know if it'll be pied as in, a ball python pied, or if it will be something just different. But I think that one's a possibility. I think that it's getting closer, at least to, what people think of as pied. But I think it's definitely line bred with the eclipse stuff. I don't think it's a new morph by itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be super cool to have one day. Yeah, have you guys seen my the gecko skull that I posted that has the pied face and belly and all that stuff?
I don't think I have. I can't remember. I've looked at so much. Yeah. I might have.
I posted a YouTube video of her, and she is she popped out randomly. So that's I'm going to test breed her because, I mean, if it was part of that whole eclipse thing, there would be other babies that had the look, and hers isn't the blue spot or the white star on the face. Hers is pied white.
Okay.
So
Sounds cool.
Yeah.
I'll have to go look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I did see that. And I mean, yeah, it's everything is like is basically test breeding. I mean,
yeah,
it's the only way. But I think people need to like kind of step back now and just really, work on the combination morphs, because of course you can just keep combining stuff, and work more on just bettering what's there and cleaning up the morphs, like cleaning up the mess that has been made for the last however many years.
Yeah.
And focus on that instead of naming new morphs that are supposedly theirs.
Yeah, exactly. We have a caller if you want to take a caller.
Sure.
Okay, a caller from 330, you're on the air.
Hi, guys. It's Brooke from the chat room.
Hey,
Hi.
How's it going?
Hello. I'm good. I'm a guest, and I'm calling in.
Do you have any?
Sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
was actually going to ask, if there was to be a new morph, like anything you can think of what it would be, but then you guys kind of discussed that, so I don't know if you would even have an opinion.
Yeah, we were really having a hard time with that because there's so many that have already been tried and nothing's come from them. And you only have so many colors that you can go for. You only have so many lines of snow that you can find, or albino lines that you can find, that unless something like really weird pops up, I honestly have no idea what a new morph could be.
Mhm.
Anybody
I
else?
agree.
Yeah, anybody else have an opinion?
I don't know. I've seen some paradox animals. I think paradoxes, once they are able to find out what causes that should be finally a new morph.
Yeah, maybe we'll get some red ones or green ones popping out that are really green.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It would be
Or,
like the Dalmatian morph on the cresteds.
Yeah. Or a hypermelanistic. I know JMG's working on that.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that's been worked on for quite a while, and it's just a really tough thing to get a black leopard gecko.
Yeah.
And, I mean, if they can make it, that'll be awesome, because I think it'll look great, but it just seems like there's no consistency with it with anybody. I mean, I've seen some of the stuff that they've worked with towards it, but I think it's going to take a lot of years. And I think there's been a lot of disappointment with the black morphs.
Yeah. Well, over the last 5 years, about 5 years, there's been disappointment with every new thing that they're trying to make.
Yes, there has. I think, like I said, I think people get so excited they want to release things a little too quick, and I think that's part of the problem, because you really have to know genetically what it is before you release it. And the other thing is, I just think that a lot of projects people are going for just aren't turning out the way that they wanted them to. And then some people are just getting completely screwed and buying things that aren't what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of fascinates me with the crested gecko that the caller just brought in, that all of those morphs are line bred ideas. So those people just breed like to like, or maybe if they outcross to something different. It's really interesting, and plus they've got the added kind of spin on it of trying to maintain structure, because the population of cresteds in the U.S. is really, really inbred to begin with.
Yes, very much. Yes, I know the head structure with cresteds is very important, and the crests themselves, I believe.
That would be cool if people started doing the whole head shape on the leopard geckos.
Or, I mean, sometimes it's kind of cool to see what different breeders bring out, because you can kind of almost tell sometimes what geckos came from which breeder because of the body structure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of times I can tell by looking at a gecko, like, whose it is. But I don't know what that is, if it's really the structure, if it's just the general look of the animal. There's just something that, like, stands out.
Yeah.
But sorry I didn't have a better answer for the morph question. I'm at a loss. I don't really know what can be done unless some random mutation pops up. I know things are being worked on in secret, but I don't know if they're really new morphs or just something that's popping up in a morph.
Right, like I know
existing morph.
Oh. I was going to say, I know I was speaking with Marcia about her bold stripe rainwater project, and that's taken her quite a few years, and it's pretty outstanding.
Yes.
But, I mean, technically it's not anything new because it's already in bells, but it's really cool in rainwaters, I think. And, you might see the same thing in Trempers down the road someday. If somebody takes the time.
That's the thing, though. But it's not, I mean, do you call it a new morph? Because really you're just combining two different morphs together that are already existing morphs. And that's kind of where you have to question how morphs are brought up. Because, you know, a rainwater's already existing and a bold stripe's already existing, and you're just combining the two together. Like combining them, you know, a Mac and an Eclipse to make a Mac Eclipse. It is a morph, but it's a combination of two morphs that already exist. So finding a new clean morph that's something that's new, like altogether new, I just don't know if that's going to happen again or not. I would love to see it happen. I just don't know what it would be.
Yeah, I know I've seen the orange eye pigments that are coming out. I don't know if you guys have seen those.
Yes.
I know Alejandro down in Mexico's got a little group that he's working on. But I mean that goes back to the whole how many other colors can we get in the eyes? You know, we've got Eclipse and Marble Eye and all the variations of Eclipse.
Yes. And eye pigments are tricky for people too because again, certain things, the enigmas when it's mixed with snow tend to throw off solid-eyed animals without the Eclipse gene. And some blizzards have solid eyes without any Eclipse gene in there, and some have normal eyes. So it definitely confuses people on the genetics with it. So, and with the enigmas and, you know, they change eyes all kinds of weird colors when combined. So there's going to be so many different eye variations out there that I don't know what we're going to know is genetic versus just some random mutation that pops up. So I'm hoping whoever works with that really works on it for years, test breeding it to see if it really is something that's like a constant thing that always comes up.
Yeah, I think it's really gonna push a wedge between the hobbyist breeder and the breeder that's really scientific. You know, they're really strict and and then you'll see the price for pure stuff go up, or just having correct genetics. You know, a real raptor would, the price would go back up. I'm seeing them at $200 now. You know, and that's just a Tremper Eclipse with some tangerine.
Yeah.
So
that is a big thing too, is the price variations that are going crazy and the different types of breeders that there are, because there are even different levels of hobby breeders. I think there's hobby breeders that breed larger numbers than I do, but they may be somebody who doesn't really understand the genetics and they're just throwing animals together. So I think there's definitely different groups of hobby breeders, you can actually split those up into different groups too.
Yeah.
Some are going to be more scientific with their stuff. They're going to be more knowledgeable. They're going to want to learn more. And some, unfortunately, that we see just think that they can throw a couple geckos together and they're a breeder. So they just buy, $10 $100 animals instead of buying $1,000 animal.
Yeah.
And that definitely affects the price for all the breeders because they sell their babies really, really cheap.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
for somebody
to me it kind of...
Go ahead.
I was going to say, to me, it kind of goes back to that whole, reputation is everything, and, quality makes quality. You can't, you can't buy, like you said, you can't buy two kind of subpar-looking geckos, and every now and again you'll get something nice, but,
but
then the person that buys that nice one might produce 100 subpar geckos breeding it to a really nice one, because it doesn't have the consistent genetics behind it.
And I do see with genetics, things skipping generations. Like I'll have my orange-spotted male Rafe. Like some of his babies will be somewhat normal looking, and then all of a sudden his grandbabies will look just like him again. So it does carry over too. It's not like you're just, you know, getting it for that one generation. You're creating animals that are going to affect other people's breedings multiple generations down the line.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely, again, that whole know who you're buying from. But reputation's a big thing, and I think pricing is tough for somebody like me because I can't price animals the way somebody like Steve Sykes prices them. You know, I'm not going to get as much as somebody like him. But I also don't want to bottom out the market and price them as somebody who's just giving their animals away. So it definitely makes it tougher for the average breeder to know how to price things and kind of just to know how to do, like, anything. I think it's hard for people to, like, focus on how to do things that way because it's like there's such a big difference in the different breeders. Mm-hmm. I may be buying all my animals from those breeders, and I'm buying those $800,000 animals, but I'm not able to sell the babies for that much. I can't get them to sell, even though they're the same quality, because I don't have that name. So it goes back to the reputation.
Yeah, I find it really it's crazy. You know, Steve is an awesome breeder, and I just recently dumped a bunch of money on him, but that goes back to the whole, like you were saying, you can't sell say you buy $2,000 animals, you can't sell the babies for $1,000 a piece because you're not Steve. Yes. But, you know, then there's, like, from Steve, you also don't get family trees and stuff like that, and I'm really crazy about, you know, I have pictures and all of that, all the way to grandparents and great-grandparents, and you know, I could probably sell Steve's $1,000 animal for like $150.
Yes, exactly.
The whole mindset of the hobby is kind of wonky, I think. You know.
It is very much. But for me, I'm still going to buy my animals from those breeders because I'm still looking to buy quality. I don't want to breed crappy animals. I am super picky on where my stuff comes from. So I'm hoping more people will be, too, because it will push out some of the bottom breeders.
Right.
Yeah.
But even as, like, a first-year breeder coming into the hobby, I expect that I can't sell my geckos for the same price that someone who has 20 years experience can.
Yeah.
But every gecko I sell leads up to that. You know, so it's like having people know that your geckos are actually healthy, because even I mean, I've seen a lot of people buy some high-end geckos without even knowing how to keep them or breed them, and then they just go down they either die a year later or they never breed because they're trying to keep them in cages that are too small or with heat lamps that are too hot or in groups, like 1 male to 5 female groups in a 10-gallon cage, you know, something like that.
Yeah. And that really surprises me when people spend that much money without doing their research. I feel like the people that are going to spend that much, I think you're crazy if you don't do your research on how to take care of the animal the right way.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like, I don't know.
I felt
that I put a good deal of money into the pairs that I bred this first year, and my thought was, you know, I see animals and I really want animals that are gorgeous and flashy, but you also have to put almost the same amount of money you're putting into those animals in their housing and care for them.
Yes.
Because if you skimp on care, you're going to be producing inferior quality to what's even. And that's where I think myself, like, I hesitate to buy from small breeders until I can thoroughly, you know, vet them, as like asking every question I can think of and stuff, because sometimes they did buy the quality animals, but they may not be producing the same quality offspring.
Yes. So I personally love when potential customers ask me questions, but the problem that I get is people are always asking me questions and then they go buy like a lower quality animal of the same type from somebody else, and then they come back and tell me.
Right.
Like, why even come back and say anything?
Or my
or
favorite
they'll buy something from. Go ahead.
My favorite is when they do that and they get it from somebody else, and then they come back and ask you, like, which ones you should pair up.
Yes,
why isn't my gecko eating?
Or I get these emails of, like, pictures, like, of 8 different geckos. Like, I just bought these from so-and-so breeder, but I don't know the morphs. What are they? I said, like, why don't you go and ask the breeder you bought them from? Like, why are you asking me?
Well,
and if the person you bought them from didn't know, you shouldn't have bought them.
I mean, it speaks volumes for you as a breeder, though, because, I mean, like me, I love getting all of those emails, even though they get a little annoying sometimes.
Yes.
But people start to see that, you know, you'll answer all those questions. So eventually they'll come to you.
Yeah, I hope sometimes. But it's insulting. Yeah. Some people are very insulting. And I feel bad because it's like I understand some people don't know better, but when somebody sends me an email and says, I know this is a really off chance and it's probably not going to happen, but would you do this price? And then they ask you like 70% off of like your asking price. And it's like, as soon as you start by saying, I know this is like a really long shot, it's like, don't ask it. Just don't ask. Because we're spending all this time and effort and money ourselves into this, and then somebody comes and it's like a slap in the face. And I feel bad because I know some people just don't know better, but there's other people who are just trying to get the cheapest thing they can get. But it's like if you want that quality, you better be prepared to spend the money for that quality.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, that's what I keep recommending. Like, what morph should I get that would be really popular and easy to sell next year? And it's like, well, take your $300 and buy 2 really nice. I usually recommend bold stripes because they're the lowest, usually the lower prices on the market, and breed them for the first time just to learn the ropes instead of spending that same amount of money on 16 $10 geckos and then having them all die so 2 months later.
I think a great beginner project for somebody is something to do with like a pair of snows, because then they learn about the supers versus the regulars and what the differences are. And I think a line bred thing like a tangerine, something like that is a good thing for beginners. Something that's simple, that's not going to be super expensive, but then they have to realize that if they want to get serious, they're not going to be continuing to breed those first beginning animals. They're going to want to buy higher end things. Because I wouldn't expect somebody to go out and buy like an $800 tangerine to start with. I mean, not everybody can do that, and most people wouldn't. But I know for me, though, I personally, most of the stuff I buy is in that price range. I really am really picky and try not to buy anything too cheap. And I'm really picky on who I do trades with, and I feel bad when I turn them down. But you know, it's one of those things where I have to be careful with the health of the animal. I want to know the genetics. I don't expect everybody to know, like, you know, the grandparents and all that stuff, because even I forget at times where I have stuff written down. But I do want to know, like, some of the history of the animal. If they didn't breed it, who did they get it from?
Yeah.
You know, I tell a lot of my breeders that I'm not going to breed again, and I always say where I got that animal from. I also think it's really big to give props to the people that you get your animals from. You know, when I have an animal breeding, like if I bought one, let's say from Steve, I'm going to say this animal's from Steve, this animal's from Jeff, this one's from Marsha. Like, I'm going to say who these animals are from, because I think that promotes them. Just like I send the same people business from, I get emails all the time for animals that I don't have, and I always have a list of breeders that I know work with those morphs, and I send people to them. I think we need to see more of that community support in the gecko community and less of the, like, separating and bickering. And, like, it needs to be more of, like, it needs to be more of a support system. It's a community. So it needs to be more supportive, more of a whole instead of a splitting. I don't expect everybody to get along because it's not going to happen, but it's not like, I mean, you're competing to an extent, but you're really not. There's so many breeders out there. People are just going to pick who they want, no matter what you say or what you do. There's no need to, like, fight with other breeders. Unless somebody's really personal and mean, then of course. But it just, I don't know, it seems so strange, the petty things that are said now. And with all the laws that we're fighting, I feel like everybody should be coming together right now and just putting everything aside and fighting to keep their animals instead of fighting with each other over personalities. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's little kids. Like, little kids arguing.
Well, it's true, you know, and I'm guilty of it. I've done it repeatedly, but you know, I'm hoping that like buying the radio show here is going to help me, you know, get people on the show that I wouldn't normally even look at on Facebook or anywhere, you know, because we all have the common animal that we're raising, so we should really focus on, you know, hey, that guy's got really, really nice animals. I might not like him because of his personality, but he's got some awesome projects he's doing.
Yeah, and it should be about the projects. I mean, I think your personality should be good, too, and for me, like, customer support and things are really important. Like, I'm not going to be mean to people because I don't think that's right. It may not be, like, a real business, but you still have to act like a business.
Yeah.
Well, if they do have a problem with their animal, I want them to come back to me. You know, I don't want that animal to be out in the cold with somebody that doesn't have as much, you know, experience and knowledge as I do.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think, like, the new people, too, they come into, like, Facebook right now, and they're seeing all this, like, bickering, and they're picking sides, and they have no idea what they're talking about. And everybody's losing focus on the animals themselves.
Yeah,
and that's
it's
really
a reality
what it should
show.
be on. It is.
Yeah. You know, that's what I hate is all the kids, you know, there's kids coming on and they're used to watching, you know, Jersey Shore and stuff, so then they come to a gecko group and there's, oh, this person did that and this person's a bad person, and they're like, yes, we love this.
Yeah, it's a lot of gossip, a lot of drama.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a teenager, and it's exactly what it is. It's just like her life, and I'm seeing it, like, over and over again. I don't want to go on, like, a forum or a blog and have to be, like, the parent. Like, I don't want to be that person. I just want to have fun, and I want to teach people, and I want to learn more, too, because there's so much more out there for me to learn.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's tough. And the new people, I really, really, really hope anybody listening that is just thinking about getting into geckos really learns that they need to do the research too. On their own, they need to learn. It's great to ask for help. I asked for help. I had some great breeders that helped me. But I also sat and read for hours and hours trying to teach myself the basic stuff, because as a breeder now, I don't want to be telling people over and over again the same things that they're not understanding, that they can be reading themselves. Come to me when you need help. Come to me with, like, specific questions, but don't come to me with, I bought this Leo, now what do I do? Like, like, read the care sheet. I have a care sheet. Everybody has a care sheet. You know, this is not that hard. Learn genetics before you throw your animals together, not after.
Yeah, I got eggs. Tell me how to make an incubator quick.
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing if it's like you just thought you had 2 females and it was a surprise, but when you knowingly put these animals together, you know they're breeding, you know they're going to produce eggs. Don't wait until the eggs show up to get an incubator ready.
Yeah, and I mean, I always get the I have to incubate these eggs, you know, and they argue and argue, we have to incubate these eggs. And it's, no, you can, you know, freeze those eggs. There's nothing, I don't see anything wrong with that. I think that it's perfectly fine, you know, and then separate the adults. Don't let it happen again until you're ready, if you're ever ready.
Exactly. And don't just come in thinking you're going to make a bunch of money breeding geckos, because you're not. You're not going to do it. I spend more than I make every year.
Yeah, if you break even the first couple of years you do this, you're doing something.
Yeah, I still spend more. I spend more than I make every year.
I'm pretty sure.
I can't help it. I mean, it's partly my fault because I buy new stuff, but, you know, you're not going to make a huge amount of money, and everything costs money, all your supplies, having a website. You know, people don't think about all the costs that are into things. If you're doing shows, you know, you have fees with your shows, too, and you have to include your gas money and your electric and everything in there.
And your cell phone bill.
Mhm.
All sorts of crazy things.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Mhm. It's definitely a big commitment. It's not like it's just an hour a day. I'm answering emails. I keep my email up as long as I'm awake. And I generally don't go to bed till like 3 a.m., so I'm answering emails until 3 a.m. You know, it's not like just something. And people get mad if you ignore them for like 4 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, that's...
Like, really, I have a family. This isn't like my career.
That's another thing is people don't understand that, like, you know, even big time people. You know, Ron was a curator at a reptile thing in Fresno. You know, so people have careers and jobs outside of this.
Yes.
So between 9 to 5, when you don't get an email right back or a text right back or someone doesn't answer the phone, they're not ignoring you. They're just, you know, trying to make money so that they can spend it on their geckos.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, you know, if my kid's sick, I'm not going to be doing anything gecko-related except for feeding that I have to do, you know, or if I'm sick even. And I feel really bad because I've had people email me like 3 different times, like, why are you ignoring me? And it's like, it hasn't even been a full day. Like, I'm really not ignoring you.
I'm not Facebook. There's only one of me.
I know.
I see you on Facebook. Why aren't you answering me?
Yeah, I stay, like, hidden on there.
I don't know how to do that. My Facebook's always on.
Mine's always on, but I close the chat out so I don't show up as, like, I turned off the chat or whatever. So I don't show up as available.
I use my iPhone, so it's like 24/7. It's online.
Yeah.
Right. I've been putting mine on the sleep. There's the do not disturb option at night.
Yeah.
Does that work for Facebook?
Yeah, it actually shuts off all notifications that come to the phone.
Wow.
So you won't get phone calls, you won't get texts, you won't get anything.
Oh, I can't do that. I'm on call 24/7, so my phone always has to be on.
Oh, that sucks.
Yes.
Yeah, I've learned over the years, though, just to find a balance. And honestly, if somebody's going to be that pushy, I probably don't want their business anyways.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me. I'm not a type of person who's going to say, like, no, who's going to be mean, who's going to ignore somebody. I'm going to try my hardest to be, like, as nice as possible. But some people just really push you.
Yeah, well, you know, I call them red flags because if they're being that, you know, sometimes they get rude and then what's going to happen when they get the gecko and it's not eating for a few days, you know, because it's all stressed from shipping, you know, you're going to get all those crazy emails.
Yeah, it is. It's tough, like, because you want your animals to go to good homes, but it's like you really can't, like, screen them like you're an animal shelter either. So you just kind of have to hope that your instincts are decent.
Yeah.
I know a lot of my business is repeat customers, and it's other breeders, so I feel pretty comfortable with that stuff.
Yeah, I've gotten lucky with that too.
But I do get a lot of, like, people in Illinois that find my website and they want to buy something local. So they're not, like, on forums or Facebook, and I've never don't know who they are. So it's always kind of that iffy thing. I can't imagine what it's like doing shows and having, like, 10 minutes to talk to somebody and then they take off with the animal.
Not even that.
Some people lurk in the background and they come up and then they just say, "Can I have that one?" And you ask them a couple of questions like, "Okay, well, you know how to care for them?" And then they're like, "Oh, yes, sure," and then they go away.
Yeah.
So hopefully they take a card and they can look up my email or something.
Yeah. Do you guys do business cards?
I honestly don't have any yet, but I do need to do some. Like, I've needed them for years. I just have a hard time with, like, the design stuff. But, yeah, I definitely need them. I have my website still, but I don't update it anymore. I just have it there for, like, reference for people.
Yeah, mine's turned into that, too.
Yeah, mine kind of started out as that.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa, you have...
They're expensive.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, and
Lisa
people don't realize that.
Yeah. Lisa, you've got business cards?
Yeah, I've just been printing them off here at home. Like, you can buy those, like, I play with Photoshop. I sit at a desk all day, so I play with Photoshop a little bit and Photoshop some of the pictures of my animals in with a orange and yellow logo.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been looking into getting that, and then when I got my order from Steve, it looked like he got some really cool business cards. They're all shiny and hard paper. And
yeah, a couple people have those. Travis has those.
Yeah,
they're like
they're
really
pretty.
Shiny and pretty. I love them. They're like, I have one right here, and it's like, yeah, it's like almost not really foil, but it's really pretty.
Yeah. Oh, Vistaprint is what they're saying in the chat room.
Vistaprint.
Yeah, I don't think they're that expensive. It's like just like $20 to $50 for a decent amount that'll last you a couple of years.
The printing's not bad. It's the design work that, you know, like, I don't know how to design them, so it's like I'd have to pay somebody to do it, and that's where it gets pricey.
Yeah, but, you know, once you pay for that design, then it's yours, and you own it, and it's roughly the same size as for a sponsor bar on those websites like the Wiki or Gecko forums.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I have those, like I have the little bars, but I don't have, like, actually anything bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just blow it up and increase the resolution, and then you got a business card.
I'll have to think about that.
Well, just because I like to send it in the, in a package with a gecko for somebody that I don't really know.
Yes. Yeah, I would like to be able to do that, too. And I've just be able to hand them out to people is nice, too.
Yeah, I donated some geckos to, like, local science classrooms. And so the teachers were, like, asking me if I had a business card to stick on the cage so the kids and their parents could pick up a card and get a gecko if they wanted.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's nice.
actually been a pretty decent connection.
That's
and that
cool.
is definitely a big thing, connections.
Yeah, I had a thought that if you got printed napkins, you could put your business card stuff on that and put it in the deli cup with the gecko.
And so they poop all over it.
Yeah, I guess. Not all my thoughts are perfect.
Oh, it's a cute idea, though. But, yeah, I've had too many that come in with big old messes.
Yeah.
Where the ink runs and then you wind up with a gecko with, like, red and orange feet.
Or the design on their belly.
Too fun.
So what else is there, guys?
Fun. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I think we went over everything.
Do you both do shows?
I don't do shows at all. I've never done one yet.
I only vend at one local one.
I go to
them,
local but I don't vend.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a local one that's like 30 minutes away, and I just like going and talking to people all day. That's what I do. So, and it's really not a great place for sales for me, at least. Sometimes I have people picking them up there, but the majority of the stuff I've sold has been online.
Yes, everything I've sold so far has been online, and then to like people that I know. I'd like to do some shows, and I've thought about it. I just never really seem to have enough animals at the same time, like that are available, because I tend to sell them before, like a show.
Well, yeah, and the local shows I go to, I guess, are like there's 20 other people that have leopard geckos there. I said Thad at Ohio Gecko usually vends there too, and he's a really good quality celebrity, and everybody runs to him because he's got fabulous animals that are and a variety that I can't produce. Yeah. And then a lot of the other people that vend there have animals that are pet quality. They threw 2 animals together, and they're virgin on sickly creatures. Not all of them, but there's a couple there.
We have a big show that's about an hour and a half away, and it really varies there. For a while there was a ton of leopard gecko breeders, but then the last few times I've gone, there's like one leopard gecko breeder and another person that has like a couple with a bunch of other stuff. Like, it really changed a lot, and I haven't been there in a few months, so it could be completely different again. It's a large show, though. I mean, it does very well, but I don't know, like, if the higher-end stuff would sell or if it would just be, like, people looking for, like, pet quality.
That's what I find.
And it's a lot of ball pythons. It's a lot of ball pythons there.
I think that's ours is mostly ball pythons and tarantulas. and then there's a variety. Oh, actually, a lot of corn snakes and king snakes, too.
Mm. But, yeah, I'd like to try a show sometime. I need to actually breed more animals to be able to make it worth it.
Yeah. I go with my table of like a dozen animals, and it's barely worth it.
Yeah, and their tables are pretty big here, so.
So how many animals do you produce?
Every season has been different. I would say anywhere from like a small season maybe with like 30 to like a larger season with maybe like 70. I really don't produce a lot a year.
Right on.
I always have that fear of overproducing. Like, I don't want to be like that problem, but, I want to make sure I produce enough to where I can supply to the people who want them, but I don't want to, like, have so many that they don't sell. And every year I've been able to sell out consistently. So, sometimes I think I need to increase it, but other times I get a little worried. Like, if I do that, I kind of watch the market. The market in the last couple of years has been down a bit. I'm hoping that as it gets better, then I'll probably start increasing again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to breed for what the market wants.
Mhm.
It changes so fast.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So yeah, small scale, nothing major, but a decent amount a year. It just depends too on my geckos and how much they want to cooperate. Some will lay like 12 eggs and some will lay 2. So.
You mean you don't get 20 hatchlings from each female?
No way.
I did with a few this last season, and it's been a little bit of a nightmare.
It is overwhelming sometimes.
Right, to have your first season, I hatched 60 leopard geckos.
Yeah,
and I only bred 6 females.
Oh, wow.
I was a little overwhelmed.
Yeah, it is overwhelming when you have so many. It's like you don't get like a day off. Like, you just want to go do something, and you're like, no, I can't. I have to stay home.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that was my major thing was kind of being prepared in advance and like, I don't know, everybody's comfortably in a 15-quart bin, so I'm down to like capacity now. For a while there, it was kind of scary of where I was going to put animals until my rack.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize Animal Plastics had a 12-week turnaround time to buy a rack, and then by the time it got here, I couldn't afford to buy 2 at once. It was kind of insanity.
Yeah, we built our first ones, and then I waited for about 3 or 4 seasons before finally buying the racks. So the handmade, the homemade ones lasted a while, but they weren't very pretty, and they weren't great. Mm-hmm. But it was good to start with because it was like half the price of buying them.
Absolutely, yeah.
But
I have one homemade rack still.
Ones. Yeah.
But it's actually a really nicely made homemade rack. So it needs new heat tape because it's 12 years old now. But
yeah.
Well,
All right. Well, we've got 10 more minutes. Did you want to do, like, KRISTI's words of wisdom?
Oh, my God. I don't know that I really have words of wisdom. Honestly, it's just the stuff we talked about, really. You know, people need to pay attention to what they're doing. They need to look at quality. You know, don't just rush into things. Don't bother breeders with questions you should be able to find on your own right away. You know, breed good quality, and if you really want to get into breeding, breed good quality animals to good quality animals. That's the only way you're going to get quality. You are not going to get good quality by breeding crappy animals. Don't buy your animals to breed from pet stores. Don't buy animals where you don't know their genetics and then say you're going to go and breed them, because you're going to mess up the gene pool even more than it's already drastically messed up right now. You know, learn as much as you can. Feed your animals healthy. You know, gut load your insects. Keep the temperatures right. Keep them in the proper care that they should be in. Quarantine your new animals. Basically all the basic stuff that everybody should learn before they start breeding. Like, to me, that's what I would want people to know.
Right on.
It's really not that hard. It's, you know, it takes some intelligence, but it's not that hard once you learn it and get the hang of it. The genetics really aren't that tough.
Yeah.
And I think that's really it. I mean, have fun with it. You know, make friends, learn from other breeders, but don't be a pest. Become friends with the breeder and then talk to them and ask them questions. But don't be a bossy know-it-all, and be willing to listen and take advice that's given, because most people, I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but most breeders really want to help you. Like, we want new breeders coming in, but we want those breeders to be good. So we want to help the new keepers. We want people to learn, but they need to be willing to learn too.
Definitely.
Sound solid advice.
I think that's really it. I mean, to me, it's pretty simple. You know, there's nothing to be all mean and petty about. It should be something fun for everybody. And there's a lot of great people to get to know. I've met a lot of great breeders, either in person or just over the internet on Gecko forums and on Facebook. And it's really neat to sit down and talk to somebody about something that you're both interested in, because there's so much more to learn. Everybody can learn.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Okay, well, we're almost to the end here. I do have some announcements for everybody. The RAACA, the Reptiles and Amphibian Charity Auctions, are still going on. And that's at facebook.com/RAACAUCTIONS. And they are actually over tomorrow. The RAACA raised over $40,000 for U.S. ARC in December, and they're already, I think it's like at $50,000 now. So everybody should go there. I have an animal
they
up.
Had seriously awesome animals.
Yeah. I donated my best white-faced super raptor to that, so go bid on it. And yeah, we got our 2 weeks numbers in. I'm doing the stats every week for the show, and we're up to 924 listeners for in 2 weeks. So that's awesome. Thanks everybody for the support, and I think that's about it. Lisa, did you want to say anything? You want to talk about your Facebook page, and then we'll do KRISTI's Facebook page and all that?
Sure. Mine's just CARPE Gecko. So if you type in CARPE, C-A-R-P-E, like Carpe Diem, but C's the gecko, because they're all unique and fabulous. That's about it, or my website. I still have a couple tangerines and sunglows and one bold bandit left from 2013.
Right on. And KRISTI, your Facebook and website?
Just Ghoulish Geckos for Facebook and ghoulishgeckos.com.
Right on. Okay, I guess that's the end of the show. Thank you so much, KRISTI, for coming on. I really enjoyed our 2 hours. And thank you, Lisa, for being my guest co-host tonight.
Thank you both for having me.
Yes, thanks. It was finally nice to talk to you outside of Gecko forums.
It's nice, yes.
All right, and I will see you all next Saturday with Art Geckos talking about the research that's being done on Enigma syndrome and how to combat the neurological defects in those and other animals that they're popping up in now. So everybody should come and watch that, or listen, I suppose. And that's it. I will talk to you all later.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Mm-hmm. Bye.
Have a great night. Bye-bye.